The first console that I owned was the Nintendo 64 when I was 4 years old. The games that I played on that console were 3D games. It is possible that because of that reason I grew up to have a preference for 3D games. When I was a teenager, I got into some top-down 2D games like Zelda Phantom Hourglass. My preference for 3D games persisted though, and even though I started to like some top-down 2D games, side-scrollers were another thing entirely. I just didn't like them, with a small exception like the Subspace Emissary from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. In recent years, surprisingly, I started to hear about a certain 2D side-scroller genre, a genre that not many people talk about, but the ones that do tend to love, the Metroidvania genre. At first, I didn't understand the hype. I didn't find anything special about it. Be my understanding that a Metroidvania game is a game that it is like Metroid and Castlevania and that looks ugly AF. I even tried playing some of them, but failed to continue playing. It was boring to me. I was about to give up, until I was given a proper definition of the genre, and oh boy, I loved the idea. But I was left with an important unanswered question. Can the spirit of a Metroidvania be implemented in games that are not side-scroller? Can Metroidvanias only be 2D platformers? Let's begin by defining what a Metroidvania is. Let's start with the name itself. The name is a portmanteau of the Metroid and Castlevania titles. Do you get it? Easy, right? But this is the part where it gets complicated. Metroid is actually a portmanteau of the words Metro and Android. But wait a second, Castlevania is a portmanteau of the words Castle and Transylvania. Is Castle a portmanteau of Cat and Whistle? How far can we go with this? Metroidvania doesn't even include the cat from Castlevania. So it is possible that Metroidvania is actually a portmanteau of Metroid and Transylvania? So many questions. Let's better look into the definition of the genre itself. I know the first thing you will do is to look at it in Wikipedia, which is exactly what I did. But Wikipedia is trash. My school teachers told me that, so it must be true. I decided to find the correct definition in a place where experts interact with each other and come to a consensus, the Metroidvania subreddit. The definition given by the Metroidvania genre scientists is the following. Metroidvania is a subgenre of 2D platforming games focused on guided non-linearity and utility-gated exploration. Look at that! It's almost helpful. Sometimes scientists don't know how to talk with the common man, but that's what I'm here for. This is what we got from the subreddit. A Metroidvania is a game focused on guided non-linearity and focused on utility-gated exploration. Sadly, I couldn't find any official explanation of what do they mean with those terms, so let's try to properly understand their meaning. Let's start with the first one, guided non-linearity. By the Wikipedia definition, a video game with non-linear gameplay presents players with challenges that can be completed in a number of different sequences. The guided part might mean how the game is structured to not only show you the obstacles but also organically guide you back to that place once you have the skills to overcome what you couldn't before. Ingenious Clown Gaming talks about this in his What Makes a Good Metroidvania video, presenting this structure as a challenge that good Metroidvanias implement really well. The second characteristic is utility-gated exploration. I guess they are talking about how in a Metroidvania game, the map is limited by obstacles that the player can overcome by exploring the available parts of the map to find the skills necessary to overcome said obstacles. The skills represent the utility and the obstacles represent the gate. Using those definitions as a base and looking into a couple of Metroidvania games, we can come up with a compilation of characteristics Metroidvania games usually share. Large interconnected world map to be explored by the player. Access to parts of the world is often limited by obstacles. The player acquires skills to access those parts of the map blocked by obstacles, defeat more difficult enemies, find shortcuts, find secret areas, backtracking, tighter integration of story and level design, encouragement of exploration and experimentation through careful design of the world and character controls, lack of levels or worlds, and side-scrolling platforming. Fine and dandy, right? Wrong! For a long time I felt something was missing, and it's that the game must look like shit. At first I thought it was because Metroidvania games were really old. But then someone recommended me the new amazing Metroidvania game, Action Verge, and right there I was completely convinced. Metroidvania games must look as old and ugly as possible. Look, I get it. Beauty is not something objective. Maybe you grew up playing this kind of games, and for you it looks really good. And there's nothing wrong about that. I know, because I also play games that by today's standards look like absolute trash, but they still look good to me. But you need to understand that for someone not used to the genre, it is a bit of a letdown when the games you want to try are not visually appealing to you. Later I got recommended Ori and the Blind Forest, and I need to say it is beautiful. So beautiful that I decided to give it another chance to the genre. Instead of playing Ori though, I started playing Metroid Zero Mission, thinking that I should first understand the root of the genre and then play the newer and prettier games. My experience with Metroid Zero Mission is one that can be resumed to nice. I didn't consider the game a masterpiece or anything like that, but my time playing was definitely enjoyable. Then I felt ready to jump to the newer Metroidvania games. I was once again tempted to play Ori. It was his visual that gave me hope for nice looking Metroidvania games after all. But before I could give it a try, another game joined the battle, and you can say that I was charmed by its visuals. So much that maybe for the first time in my life, I bought a game without thinking twice. That game was Hollow Knight. And oh boy, it took me a while. But after playing Hollow Knight, I was finally able to feel what it's like to be a fan of the Metroidvania games. I love Hollow Knight so much that I, a busy adult, have already played the game for over 127 freaking hours. I felt so bad about how little I had to pay to enjoy this masterpiece that I even bought the game a second time to have it on my Nintendo Switch. All of this for a side-scroller game, a genre that I usually despise. But after playing Hollow Knight, something started to feel familiar. I felt like I already enjoyed the spirit of Metroidvania games even in my childhood. That was when my eyes finally opened. Everything I enjoyed so much about Metroid Zero Mission and Hollow Knight was already present in one of my favorite games from my childhood. The name of that game is Banjo Tooie. So the question is, can Banjo Tooie actually be a hidden Metroidvania, even though it is not a 2D side-scroller? I actually think that's the case. We can leave my experiences with Banjo Tooie for another video, but for now I want to explain the structure of the game to show you how Banjo Tooie implements the characteristics that we discussed earlier of a Metroidvania game. The world of Banjo Tooie is split into two types. One is the overworld, and the other are the main worlds. The overworld is called the Isle of Hags, and it is composed by the following areas: Spiral Mountain, Jinjo Village, Wooded Hollow, Plateau, Pine Grove, Clifftop, Wasteland, and Quagmire. On the other hand, the main worlds are independent areas with not apparent connection between each other. These worlds are Maya Hen Temple, Little Gulch Mine, Witchy World, Jolly Rogers Lagoon, Pterodactyl Land, Grunty Industries, Hailfire Peaks, Cloud Cuckoo Land, and Cauldron Keep. Each world is blocked by an obstacle. To be able to access the different worlds, the player must collect a certain amount of Gigis, which is the game's main collectible. When the player reaches the proper amount of Gigis, he is allowed to complete a puzzle that will destroy the obstacle that stops the player from getting into the world. Okay, I know you might be thinking that there's something wrong about this. Metroidvania games are not supposed to have worlds. In a Metroidvania game, the player should be placed in an interconnected world that he can further access not by getting collectibles, but by getting skills to overcome the obstacles. And I understand that, but hear me out. To make sense of this, we require a better understanding of the structure of the game. The reality is that there are actually multiple obstacles to access most of the different worlds. The first is the one that we mentioned earlier, an obstacle that is open after finding a certain amount of G's and completing a puzzle. However, to get access to the different worlds, first you need to get access to the overworld areas those worlds are connected to. To do that, you need to overcome an obstacle that is actually one that the player can only overcome after getting a specific skill, which requires exploring the areas and worlds that he has access to. First, let's review how the areas of the overworld are connected to the different worlds of the game. Wooded Hollow connects with Mayahem Temple. Plateau connects with Little Gulch Mine. Pine Grove connects with Witchy World. Cliff Top is the first area that connects with multiple worlds, in this case with Jolly Roger's Lagoon and Hailfire Peaks. Wasteland connects with Pterodactyland and Cloud Cuckoo Land. And finally, Quagmire connects with Grunty Industry and Cauldron Keep. Now, let's quickly check out the obstacles to reach those areas. In Wooded Hollow, you will notice a path that you can't take yet. This path will lead you to the plateau. To access the plateau, you need to get the Grip Grab skill from the Mayahem Temple. In the plateau, you will notice two closed gates. To open one of those gates, you need the Fire Eggs, which you get in the plateau. Now you will have access to the Pine Grove area. Here you will find another obstacle in the form of a rock, conveniently with the face of a kazooie. Back to the plateau, you can use the Speed Up skill you got from Witchy World to get access to the clifftop area through the closed gate we previously saw. Back to Pine Grove, you can break the previously seen rock by using the Talon Torpedo skill you get in Jolly Roger's Lagoon. Now you will have access to the Wasteland and you will be able to see a place out of reach. Finally, to access the final area, Quagmire, you need to get the Springy Step Shoes from Pterodactyland. From here, you will need the Claw Clamber Boots from Grunty Industry to access the final world of the game. Don't take this as a gospel though. Maybe I forgot some details or just didn't include them at all. Like the fact that you need to enable the train to be able to actually access Grunty Industries. Banjo Tooie follows the guided non-linearity principle by allowing you to complete the challenges in a number of different sequences, and it also shows you obstacles that you can overcome later. Utility gated exploration is also present not only in the overworld but also inside individual worlds. You might still feel weird about the concept of an overworld and main worlds inside a Metroidvania title, but this is where things start to get interesting. Normally, when a game has an overworld, the only reason for its existence is to access the game's main worlds. The overworld normally feels different in comparison to the main worlds, but that's not really the case for Banjo Tooie. Here, the overworld's structure is almost identical to the one for the main worlds. The overworld as well as the main worlds has 10 Jiggies, including the first Jiggy of the game and a Jiggy for each rescue Jinjo family. 100 musical notes, 5 Jinjos, skills, a Globo, a page, boss fights, an internal method of transportation, access to the train, Mumbo and his powers, Wumba and her transformations. It's insane! We are only missing the freaking honeycombs. It is so wild that the differences even feel out of place and artificial. It almost feels like the differences were introduced only to make a distinction that doesn't really exist. Those differences are: all the Jiggies are Jinjo related, the internal method of transportation looks different, Wumba transformation is actually permanent or at least as long as you want to have it, the number of skills, pages and globals, the kind of skill you earn, as in the overworld they are always new types of eggs, and no honeycombs as we mentioned earlier. But what about the large interconnected world? We can't really say that the world is interconnected if the only way to get anywhere is through a single world. And sure, this might be the initial feeling you get when you start playing the game, but soon you will realize that the different worlds are interconnected between each other too. Sure, the main entrance might be the overworld, but that doesn't mean that the world is not interconnected as a whole. Let me show you the connections, without taking into consideration the terrain, as that would be kind of cheating. Mayahen Temple is connected to Glitter Gulch Mine, Pterodactyl Land, and Hailfire Peaks. Glitter Gulch Mine is connected to Witchy World, Jolly Rogers Lagoon, and Hell's Fire Peaks. Witchy World is connected to Pterodactyl Land. Jolly Rogers Lagoon is connected to Grunty Industry and Hailfire Peaks. Pterodactyl Land is also connected to Hailfire Peaks. What the hell? Grunty Industry is also connected to Hellfire Peaks. Almost everything is connected to Hellfire Peaks. And that's not taking into consideration the fact that some worlds interact with each other without having a path to go from one to the other. For example, Cloud Cuckoo Land is not connected to any world, but you can actually see the rest of them from the top, and you can also affect both Pterodactyl Land and Hailfire Peaks. With all of this information, we can say that Banjo Tooie accomplishes large interconnected world map to be explored by the player, access to parts of the world that is often limited by obstacles. The player acquires skills to access those parts of the map blocked by obstacles, defeat more difficult enemies, find shortcuts, find secret areas, backtracking, and the encouragement of exploration and experimentation through careful design of levels and character controls. If a 3D game is capable of implementing so many Metroidvania characteristics, I think it is fair to say that Metroidvanias don't need to be 2D side-scroller after all. 3D games can have the spirit of the Metroidvania genre too, and they can do wonders with it. Another good example of a 3D Metroidvania is the first game that I ever bought twice, Scooby-Doo Night of Haunted Frights, which I won't go into detail in this video or it will never end. But tell me, what do you think about this? Do you think games that are not side-scroller can be considered to be Metroidvanias? Or do you think the side-scroller theme is essential for a good Metroidvania experience? Please let me know in the comments below. That's all for this video. Until next time, see ya!